G'day guys, you guessed it. I am pissed off. 52-point loss to the Sydney Swans at the SCG on Friday night. Pushes us outside the top 8. We're now in 10th position. After Fremantle, also the Pies got up. Let's push that aside for the time being. It's not so much the scoreline that I'm pissed off about. All teams, best teams in the competition, middle of the road teams in the competition, and obviously the shit teams in the competition are going to get their pants pulled down. It happens. Hopefully, for our sake, that's a one-off. Okay, but that for me, as far as trying to put a slight positive on things, okay, that's where it ends, apart from some individual performers on the night, and there wasn't too many of those. It went to script, didn't it? I think for me, the most frustrating thing and the thing that makes me angriest the most is that was such a predictable performance and so fucking predictable. One, the fast start. And we've seen this before, and it's becoming a bit of a thing with our football team. It looks good. It looks good. And there's no doubt, okay, and maybe there's another little positive here. There's no doubt that we appear to be switched on. In fact, you'd probably rather we be switched on than come with a lax attitude and get blown out of the block straight away. But these fast starts, and I'm not necessarily saying we are front runners, okay? I just feel like we are just incapable, and we have an inability and a lack of game sense and a lack of skill and a lack of composure and a lack of real balance in this team to be able to assess a situation in a game, and we are just worked out so quickly. And the opposition they know who we are. They know. If we don't have the game purely on our own terms in one particular part, which is around beating opposition at the coalface and rushing the ball forward with speed, getting the ball out the front of stoppages and getting it in to our dangerous forwards. Okay, that's about it, and that's where it ends. And not for one moment in that game. In fact, when I sat watching that first quarter, the first 14 minutes or whatever it was when we were scoring, and we looked like an A-grade football team. There's no doubt Sydney were slightly off. But like last week against Melbourne, credit where credit's due. We were playing well. Not for 1 second did I think any of that was sustainable. And I don't mean sustainable in that you expect us to be able to play that type of football for a whole game. I'm not saying that. That's ridiculous, because if that was the case, we'd end up kicking 25, 26 goals against the Sydney Swans, who were a quality outfit. We knew they would lift. All right? And when you really think about it, our only chance in that game is if Sydney had an off night. Okay? And that wasn't the case, because they are a super football team. Okay? So the loss itself, it wasn't unexpected. Okay, but the thing that fucking makes me the angriest about this football team of ours at the moment, and it's something which has sort of irked me for a period of time, is the game sense and how easily we're worked out. and our inability after dominating a period of the game and the opposition do score, which, good opposition will rebound and score. And it sort of took me back a little bit to that prelim final against the Brisbane Lions last year when we got off to an absolute flyer and we were carrying on like pork chops. And look at us, we're fucking this and we're that. And now players are celebrating and high-fiving and we're up and about. And when Harry Kipwood kicked that goal just before quarter time in that prelim final, we knew. And once I think it was Conor McGregor, the Irishman, who kicked the goal to put him in front. They said we knew the game was over. I just knew this game was over. Soon as Sydney were able to score in that first quarter and get the game on their own terms, we knew we were gone. Well, I did anyway. I knew we would gone. Did I think it was going to blow out that much? I think that's insignificant as far as I'm concerned. But our inability, and I think it starts at the moment with game sense and a lack of skill and a lack of composure and probably ball retention. Okay, so when Sydney started to take control of that game, were we able to get our hands on the ball, then keep control, even if it was just for 3 or 4 minutes, or make it into an absolute dogfight? If that's our one would, to make it into a dogfight, we weren't even able to do that. So I don't think we are even capable of controlling a game to take the sting out of it. I just don't see that in this team, and that requires skill players, and even our best players with just footy smarts, footy IQ, and exceptional skills under pressure. And that's what's required at this level. You can't just expect you're going to play against poor teams and control the game because the pressure's not there. Against these good teams, there's going to be pressure. There's going to be pressure. And the best teams are able to absorb that pressure, even if it's just for a 3 or 4 minute period, to frustrate the opposition, okay, and stop them scoring multiple goals. And the opposition know this with us. They just know it. They know, let's be patient. This mob, they've actually given us their best shot. And this is all they've got. It's really all they've got. And if we get to work and we take out a Sam Walsh, we really work Patrick Cripps over at the stoppages and make his disposals under pressure, they ain't got a lot else. They've got no speed. Okay, so it's not going to like they're going to break the game open and score really quickly on the back of that. And they're going to go, when they're under pressure, the only thing they've got, this mob, okay, they're not going to be able to keep control of the ball. They're not going to go uncontested marks. They're going to go down the line and force stoppages, and we're going to be ready for that. Just like Collingwood were a couple of weeks back. They went to work on our strength, which is round the ball. And we were fucking exposed for just right here, right now, a very, very ordinary looking football team. And I don't want to pot our best players because they do so much. And without them, I feel like we're nothing. I really do. However, it's sort of symbolic, I think, of when I talk about maybe this ball retention and just the fundamentals of the game, guys, like the fundamentals of the game. And I'll take you back. I remember looking at the clock late in that first quarter. I felt the game was over. I really did. I just felt the game was over. I did, even when they started to score in that first quarter. And I felt like that game had turned so much that even though we led at quarter time, Sydney probably should have been either level or in front. But there was about 1:45 to go in that first quarter. And I mean, you go right back to that Harry missed opportunity. I mean, 15 metres out from goal directly in front after an amazing kick by, I think it was Matthew Owies, who set him up. And that's Harry in a nutshell, isn't it? It really is. And we can bang on about, he's changed his routine and all that. But when a key forward gets that opportunity to put some extra scoreboard pressure on and you miss one from directly in front, it's a consistent thing. But I'm not talking about that. That is a fundamental, but I'm not necessarily talking about that because I don't think that changed the game. It didn't help, but it's systematic. But there were three things. And you maybe expect these from lesser like players, maybe guys playing their first game, second year players, guys, making their way. But late in that first quarter, summed it up for me perfectly around fundamentals. And we are just a very, very sloppy football team. Harry takes a mark across half back, 1:45 to go. I think the game sense was all right. Okay, obviously they had the placards up, 2 minutes to go. Let's try and slow it down. Let's not play into the hands of Sydney. Let's not bomb the ball down the line here. We don't want them to score. Harry goes sideways with a 15-metre, 20-metre chip kick sideways. Now, you would think Harry, reasonable field kick, would be able to hit Blake Acres with a target. Ball comes off the side of the boot, which happens. It happens. Okay, ball goes out of bounds. There's a fundamental mistake late in the quarter. Gives Sydney an opportunity across half forward to get the ball inside 450. Sure, we win a clearance. Okay, not bad. Ball goes across half forward. Okay, Charlie, I can't remember where he marks it or wins a free kick, but he gets up quickly. Okay, had an opportunity to go inboard to a player, who was unattended with a short kick, all right, with around about 1:20 left on the clock. Okay, let's just take our time here. We don't want to turn the ball over to this Sydney mob because they will get us on the rebound. What does Charlie do? We see it a fucking 100 times with this bloke. We just see it all the time. Okay, he swings around with this kick. When it comes off, it looks fantastic. It gets penetration. Okay, it goes a long way. But a lot of the time, it just does not work. It either grubs him. And this one, I think it's the biggest sin in football myself, is kicking into the man on the mark. Another fundamental. 1:20 left on the clock. We don't get the ball inside our front half. Any opportunity, one, to score late in the quarter, two, to at least lock the ball in. Sydney rebound. Ball goes inside their forward 50 with about 15 seconds left on the clock. And sure enough, one thing which we are just being fucking pathetic at is our tackling. Not only the broken tackles, but the execution of a tackle. And Sam Walsh, another leader, another vice captain. And once again, people will say, yeah, I'm potting our best players here and they do so much. And that's true. But an overzealous, high tackle, clumsy, he knew. And we were lucky that, I can't even remember, did they kick a point? Ball fell short. And to me, that sums us up. It just sums us up. And when Joel Armady kicked that goal, and I felt the game was over anyway, I really did. But when Joel Armady kicked that goal early stages of the second quarter to put the Swans up, we were gone. And that was it for the rest of the game. And everything... And I'll take my hat off to the Sydney Swans. They are a super football team. I'm not here to say that it's all about us and we played so poorly, which allowed them to have the game on their own terms. But they everything they were, we weren't. So they, after the first part of that game, they were able to change things up in the middle and dominated out of the centre, and it was damaging. They smashed us, absolutely smashed us. Not only did they smash us out of the centre, they pretty much smashed us around the ground. And they knew, okay, if they were able to do that, they had the speed on the outside to kill us. Heaney and Warner. Oh, what would we give just to have a player capable of, midfielders capable of going forward and hitting the scoreboard? I spoke about Warner before the game that I thought he was probably the number one player that would hurt us, and he did. He hurt us. I thought Heaney was relatively well quelled early in the game. I think Matthew Kennedy may have gone to him and did a reasonable job, but the luxury they have to be able to put someone like Isaac Heaney forward where he just took us to the cleaners. And we don't have that luxury. And that's what happens, guys, when you're going with 3 big forwards and 2 ruckmen. We can't push a Patrick Cripps forward. We can't push a Matthew Kennedy forward. And I'm not saying them to or Isaac Heaney and have good forward craft, but we are very much one-dimensional and we don't get anything in regards to scoreboard impact from our mids, or we rarely do anyway. And the speed of Warner, and not just Warner, McInerney, Blakey. Blakey was a little bit messy on Friday night, but his willingness to take the game on and to be brave and to just be proactive. How many times did I see our players who I thought had reasonable leg speed just not be able to chase these boys? They tried. And that was like stark and row bottom. And this is where you look at the balance of midfield. He's so disciplined and so selfless, and he's willing to sacrifice his game for the betterment of the guys on the outside, whether it is a Heaney, whether it is a Warner or a Gordon when he went into the middle. He just went to work and he does really well. And he allows those guys to get off the chain. And let's face it, they're powerful and they're skillful. And I think the skillful one was on show once again. And they made some mistakes, in slippery conditions. But they were clean and clinical. And goals really and scoreboard impact came easy. And their defence, when we didn't have complete control of the game early, and this happens, they tightened up and they had great synergy, which ours didn't. And losing Jacob Wiedering, I think, is probably our best player in regards to being able to sense the game and to slow it down. And take the sting out of it. It didn't help losing him, but that wasn't a huge impact. We were never winning that game of football. And let's face it, we still had McGovern, we still had Kemp, we still had Marchbank, we still had some big players down there to cover that. They didn't have McCartan. They still held up, didn't they? They still held up with Francis. They still held up with Rampy. They still held up with young Melican. So let's stop making excuses. You lose one player and it's just all doom and gloom. So I'm not going to talk much more about it, guys. I feel like this, once again, we're putting this into just the too hard basket with this football team. It's just one way. We know how to play one way, and when it works for a short period of time in a game, even against good opposition, it looks fantastic. It really does. But it's easily worked out. And it feels like it's no longer sustainable. And when it's not on our terms, we don't have the skill or the know-how, particularly in our best players. I'm not talking about our C and B grade players, our role players, but our best players. So it is a concern. And it's probably why I've been somewhat cautious, and I'll continue to be cautious with this football team. I'm going to go through the players. I am. I was thinking about not doing this, but I feel like I need to. and I want to. Ollie Hollands, second-year player, having a poor year. Found a little bit last week. Tough position to win when the ball's not out there, but I think he had Goulden, and I don't think he was keeping Goulden out of the game, but I think the ball wasn't necessarily tracking that side of the game, but Goulden went into the middle and became a real contributor for Sydney after half time. And right here, right now, you look at Ollie Hollands and you think, what is the upside? What is the upside? He fumbles. He's not a great kick. He's a great endurance runner, but he's not fast. So you look at someone like Justin McInerney, who's a winger for the Swans, and he's not perfect, but he's fast. He's fast and powerful. Can Ollie Hollands get to that level? Not quite sure, but he is young. But it was a poor night. Zach Williams. I didn't mind something different with Williams. I really didn't. 11 disposals, kicked a goal. I liked his rundown tackle of Blakey. Showed he was still engaged in the game when the game was over. He did give us a little bit of energy, but yeah, I mean, it's worth considering. It's worth maybe putting some more thought into getting him further up the ground. I don't think it was a disaster. Matthew Kennedy, serviceable on Heaney early, but is systematic of just a really slow and one-pace midfield. Unless we're getting the ball in close, unless we're getting our hands on it first, there's not a lot else with Matthew Kennedy. He did go forward, kicked the goal, shows he has got fairly decent forward craft. But yeah, Patrick Cripps, just a messy night. Every time he got the ball, he was under pressure. He tried his guts out, but every time he got the ball, he was under pressure. So there were scrap kicks, there were short kicks. He was under pressure with his handballs. Not great. Harry, yeah, I think I summed it up before. Missed goal straight in front. Still took 9 marks. Probably starved of opportunities. Once Sydney got on top, we had no flow in the game. He wasn't awful. Mitch McGovern, second time this year I've seen him drop a really easy mark where it looks like he's sensed that pressure's come from behind by himself. I don't like that. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it. I know he's had 17 disposals, but the ball was down there a fair bit. But I don't like that, and I don't feel like he stepped up a lot once Wiedering went off. Okay, so I didn't think it was a great game. DeConning just seems to have maybe stifled it a little bit. Okay, with Pitnet coming into the ruck, I'm not saying Tom DeConning's a number one ruckman, but what I'm saying is he looked like he was starting to track pretty well. We're getting more game time in the ruck, but it was a really poor game by TDK, really poor game. I can't fault the efforts and the durability really of Blake Acres, but when he's pushing back really hard defensively, which he has to do, feels like he's the last bloke we want the ball in the hands of coming out of our back half. He's just not a good user. And wouldn't it be great if he was an elite user of the ball coming out, how hard he works defensively to be that player you want the ball in the hands of to get the ball going. But he's not that player. But we need him. And it almost feels like sometimes he's our best defender because he pushes that hard back to help us out. Fantasia, I'm not going to say much. I'm just not going to say much. I'm just like gobsmacked to think. And we talk about injuries and we talk about, who else is there, but this is a bloke we brought to the football club. This is a bloke we brought to the football club to potentially be in our best 22 players, to potentially be a dangerous small forward. This isn't like a second, third year player, okay, or a fringe player or a depth player. This is a bloke we brought to the club. Okay, get his body right. He's going to be a threat for us. And right now he is just not fucking firing a shot. And it's just not good enough. Jack Carroll, looked slow when he came on. Got his hands on it a little bit, but looked slow. I remember him chasing someone from the middle of the ground and just like he just could not make up any ground at all. He is super slow and doesn't use the ball particularly well. Brody Kemp, typical Brody Kemp, he's ended up with 19 and taken 8 marks, but there was that time in the first quarter, I think it may have been their second goal or first goal, where he was outmarked because he didn't punch from behind against a smaller opponent. And that's Brody Kemp in a nutshell. He's just too messy for my liking. Walsh just had a poor night, well held by Jordan. They really went for him. They knew that. Look, smart coaching. They knew he's our most damaging player in regards to run and carry, and it was just a really disciplined performance by James Jordan. I mean, he kept trying. Walsh, he kept trying, but it was just it just didn't work for him. Durden's had 3 handballs. Corey Durden's had 3 handballs, and we've signed him a 2-year contract. The kid is just lacking in confidence. Elijah Hollins, I think it was a positive. I think it was a positive game. I thought he was our cleanest player. Thought he used the ball really well by hand. But once again, systematic of just a really one-paced sort of high half forwards. And when he spends time in the midfield, there's no speed, there's no power. But one thing is, if we're able to get that, if we're able to get some quicker players into this football team, he's one bloke that can win it, and he's one player that can use it, and he's got good composure. He doesn't help us with that speed. He just doesn't. So Caleb Marchbank, I mean, we're going to talk about this all the time, aren't we? I mean, he's come back, give him time to work into the game. It's his first game back. You know, let's not be too hard on him, but nah. I just feel like it's going to be a consistent thing with Caleb Marchbank in his body. Wiedering, disappointing. Corky again, in doubt now for next week. Thought Nick Newman was clearly our best player, and to play well, I think he really set himself to play well once again against his former club. I thought he was outstanding, actually. I thought he was outstanding. Pitnet, look, you look at his numbers, 17 hit-outs. Beaten by Grundy, really, but he's battled away. But Jesus Christ, it just looks slow in there, doesn't it? It just looks slow. He's ended up with 20 disposals and 11 clearances, so he's had a dip. But it just wasn't effective. Hewitt, systematic. He's out there looking at that, and we're thinking, no wonder Sydney didn't really press hard to keep me. Just slow, just really slow. Curnow can be brilliant. He's kicked what's he kicked? He's hit the scoreboard a couple of times. Yep, took a couple of nice grabs. Tried to keep us in it. Jordan Boyd's ended up with 19. Couple of desperate acts. I think he'd be a better player with potentially Adam Sard back in the team. Are we getting enough out of his ball use? Chincotta. I think he tried hard on Papley. But if your job is pure lockdown, and they controlled the game. It was a bit like Brisbane last night against Richmond. If you're a forward in that Brisbane team last night and you couldn't cash in, then you want to give the game away. And let's face it, Papley ended up cashing in. He's a good player. Chincotta tried his best. But when you look at it, you're a lockdown. You're purely locked down. That's going to be your job. He would have loved to have come from the game with Papley having no influence on that game at all. He ended up having 5 scoring shots, still looked dangerous, and Chincotta's had 4 touches. So that just shows you his job was to lock down. And you look at that and say he was beaten. And Owies, it's pretty sad to say at the moment that Owies is clearly our best small forward, and he didn't do a hell of a lot. Anyway, that's it. Happy to read any comments, guys. And let me tell you how you're feeling right here, right now.